are doing better as a result of social media presence.
If it doesn't do those three things, then it's on the chopping block.
It's a return on investment discussion.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Daily Dealer Live. I'm your host, Sam Dark, and welcome to this space where all automotive comes together. Thanks for choosing to be here on this Friday, November 7th, where today it's Fixed Ops Friday, everybody. Before we get into Fixed Ops Friday, let's jump into today's biggest industry headlines. And first up today, a shocker from Ford. Ford is reportedly weighing whether to cancel production of its Ford F-150 Lightning electric pickup. This, according to the Wall Street Journal. Production of the EV pickup has been idled since October after a fire at a Novelis aluminum plant in upstate New York when disrupted a key supply source for U.S. automakers. When faced with a shortage, Ford prioritized the gas-powered F-150, adding shifts to its Dearborn plant while keeping the Rogue Electric Vehicle Center dark. A few years ago, the Lightning launched to huge buzz, but it has struggled to maintain sales momentum ever since. And as a result, Ford's EV division continues to hemorrhage money, losing, get this, $3.6 billion this year alone. Zooming out, Ford's potential EV retreat is far from isolated. Stellantis already canceled its all-electric Ram. Tesla Cybertruck sales have collapsed, and Rivian is laying off workers amid huge losses. Next up today, there's been a big leadership shakeup at CarMax. CEO Bill Nash is stepping down December 1st after the used car giant posted weak preliminary results for the third quarter. While it searches for a new CEO, CarMax is bringing back some familiar faces to stabilize things. Longtime board member and retail veteran David McRae will step in as interim CEO, while former chief Tom Folliard, who ran CarMax for a decade, is returning as executive chair. But it's been a rough year for CarMax stock, which is down, get this, 50% in 2025. And Folliard says the focus is now simple: get sales moving again, improve profitability, and cut costs. Looking ahead, the company's next earnings call on December 18th will likely expose the true depths of CarMax's structural issues, and we'll bring you that report once it's released next month, mid-month. Next up today, and it is interesting, CarMax, Carvana, similar models focused on used, the tale of two very different results. It'll be fun to dive into that today and in future episodes. Next up today, back to the news. A new J.D. Power study shows that auto tariffs triggered retail whiplash earlier this year. Shocker, pulling many car buyers forward into the market and leaving some dealers in a lurch now that demand is softening. The survey of more than 32,000 new vehicle buyers found that 87% of import buyers, both premium and mass market, decided to buy sooner than planned. 87% sooner. But that rush came at a price. About 15% said they spent more than they meant to, while overall satisfaction scores remain basically unchanged. However, between the lines, transparency is now a measurable profit driver for dealers. For example, buyers who are unhappy with their trade-in values but did not receive a thorough explanation justifying the amount and had higher overall satisfaction scores. Bottom line, customer trust is becoming the ultimate currency as costs rise. So I just want to make sure I said that correctly. Buyers who are unhappy with their trade values, but who received a thorough explanation explaining the trade value, scored higher overall satisfaction scores than those that did not. So data backing up the decision and providing transparency scores well with consumers. By the way, that's something we in the auto industry know and are running towards. And finally, up today, we bring an update to the unfolding automotive chip crisis. It's not Doritos or Lay's. It's those that go into making the vehicles we sell, involving semiconductor chip maker Nexperia. Earlier this week, Nexperia told its customers it still had no clarity on if or when shipments of chips, which are vital to core vehicle functions, would fully resume. Then, in a quick turnaround, and you can't make this up, the Netherlands decided to back down and China began easing restrictions, allowing some exports to move again, according to Bloomberg. Parts suppliers like Bosch and Aumovio say shipments have started flowing, and automakers including Volkswagen, BMW, and Honda are already planning to restart production. Still, industry leaders are cautious. German manufacturers are preparing for possible disruptions in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and insiders warn that financial and oversight disputes between Nexperia's Dutch headquarters and its Chinese operations remain essentially unresolved. And we here at CDG are committed to continue bringing you the updates on this evolving chip crisis now and into the future. And that is a wrap on today's industry news. Yuli, welcome back.
Happy to be here.
All right, what's your take? Are we going to see chips or no chips? It does seem like it goes back and forth. Trump went to China. He held his summit. It feels like maybe the resumption and kind of the loosening of some of that might be tied to his visit, but it's tough to say for sure. And as with all things, chip shortages and tariffs, like it remains up in the air. What are dealers to do in this tumultuous time as we're trying to figure out, do you go all in on inventory used in particular, anticipating a chip shortage, or do you continue to exercise high discipline, assuming that that will not materialize? It's a fascinating question, Yuli.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a coin toss. Actually, every single point you were going through, I'm like, I have this opinion of where the market could go in any direction. But, you know, the people in the business do understand these chips that we're short on are not these super complicated things. They're the things that control ABS, power windows, power door locks. I mean, you cannot finish a car without those chips.
Yeah, that is true, right? Like it is not none of these are optional. So,
yeah.
All right, everybody, for those joining our live stream, we are live as always across all CDG social media platforms. Post your comments. We'll bring them into today's show. And what a show we have in store for you today, our Daily Dealer live audience. Again, it's Fixed Ops Friday, which will be super fun. So wherever you're watching, whether you're in fixed sales, parts, vendor, shout out in the comments. Let us know where you're listening from, where you're watching from, and we'll bring you into today's show with your conversation, with your comments, with your feedback. And first up today, we go to someone who's been here multiple times in the fixed ops world. We're super pumped to have Tully Williams, Parts and Service Director at the Niello Company, back with us again on Daily Dealer Live. Tully, welcome.
Thank you for joining us. I love Fixed Ops Fridays.
Yes, a Fixed Ops Friday, and you are a core central figure to Fixed Ops Fridays because you refuse to relent that variable ops or sales, you are driving, in your words, the dealership experience and the profitability at your dealer group, Tully. Yes? No? Maybe
yes.
So?
Well, I would say 100%. You got to remember, if it wasn't for Fixed Ops, sales could not sell the second, third, fourth, 50th car, correct?
And on this Friday, November 7th, that's a great reminder for everybody across the organization. All right, so tell us first off, Tully, how's biz in
Biz is okay. I think, the last quarter, the last month was a struggle, but we did have year-over-year growth, which is always good. We want to be green. We sold 138% of our hours forecast, which, that's what I care about. Wow. Don't care about the money, care about selling our capacity. And, it was interesting you talk about the chips and then used cars. Used cars was a big focus for us in fixed. How do we drive more inventory, quality inventory that we'd send? That really did help the fixed ops department. And of course, fix helps fix the used car department as well.
So when you say you have a used car focus, is that on reconning the used cars or is it acquiring used cars, Tully?
I think it's always, but on my side, it's more about recon, as you know. I mean, our goal is how many days, how many hours should we get it out? 2, is the shop set up? Oh, we'll get to the used car tomorrow. No, we need to get to used car today. We had our biggest gross for the store when it comes to recon gross and the most hours that we ever produced in used cars this month, which to me is a win. When you figure out you're struggling with, economy is down a little bit, I think, in the market. I think people are a little worried. But used cars picked it up, and guess what we did? We gave a tremendous amount of quality, great recon vehicles to the used car department to sell, to make great customers for us, which is why we're in business, don't we?
So you shortened the time from acquisition to the curb to frontline ready, which we all know is an important metric in being able to sell. If we can sell that vehicle in the first 30 days, we're going to be more profitable. How did you shorten that turn time, Tully?
Focus 100%. So we focus on 2 things in the fixed ops department. One is when we buy the car, how many days did it get to the shop? The next thing is that it goes from how many days in the shop. If that's over 2 days, we have a serious problem, right? So our focus is that. Now what happens is when we have our dedicated advisor on that used car, our dedicated techs, speed is the essence. Oh, guess what? We bonus the internal advisor, not on gross, not on anything, but the total days in shop. So that person is doing what? My car needs to go. Our car needs to go. What can I do to get parts? So our focus, when you look at our total group, cars in shop, we were under two days, 1.9.
Wow.
But you know what? It started with a 1.
Yeah.
And days in the shop jumped up to just about 1 point something. And it depends how you buy the cars. But the focus is what? Speed and quality. And that to me is the biggest thing for us.
So you said it started with a 1. Give us the starting number, because I was at one of our stores and I was looking at a number that looked like 14 to 15, and I lost my mind. I thought that's insane, right? That's crazy. I'm not going to admit that, but I might say that. A store I know. I'm asking for a friend. So what did your number start with, Tully?
It started 4 to 5.
Yeah. And now you're at 2 days. Yeah.
Correct. Now we had some stores that struggled. I'm going to say, and I'm not going to say your number, but it came close to it. But now every store is in the green under 3. Yeah. That includes before and after.
So I think I know this answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there a technology or a tool that you're using to help track that through the process from start to finish?
So each store has their own little widget. So we use Xtime at our store, so we provide the videos and so forth. But really, what I look at is the day we purchased the car in CDK.
Okay.
The day it opened the repair order and the day the repair order closed. So I'm not giving any fake news here. This is real numbers.
So from the day it's bought in CDK to the day it's frontline ready, what's your average today?
The time that the RO closed to frontline ready, I don't know that exact number, but I know a lot of stores have told me it's less than a day on average. Because you have the detail process. Usually things are happening in that process there, but we're getting that car out on the thing. So when you look at our overall, I would say from the day we buy it or it hits the ground, if it ain't on the front line in 5 days or 4 days, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And Tully, are you using some sort of a technology tool like Rapid Recon or something to track as it goes through service, or are you using your own spreadsheets? I know you've got a pretty elaborate tool yourself.
So some stores like Rapid Recon, and they like it. So we let the used car manager and the service manager really work on that. Some people use Xtime, where we forward that information. But it's whatever the store wants. I think at the Niello company, we want the store to own it. We just need the days under 3 in the shop in beforehand. I mean, if you're at 3, you're in the negative. We really want 2 days in the shop. But look at what happens to our store. We actually made a month that we were struggling with because warranty and customer pay were down at teens. Used cars came through. Used car good business? Absolutely. We charge what we charge a customer. We need to demand that excellence because, ultimately we're in the repeat and referral business. Every recon ticket is what? A new customer for the Niello company.
So I was just in defense of myself. I was talking from the moment it's acquired, whether at auction or somewhere else, to the moment it sits in that front line. So I'm going to give you, but I will also tell you that number is abhorrent. Like I think the focus right now has got to be from the minute that vehicle's purchased. It's using every tool to get it on the lot as fast as you can. So delivering it from wherever you buy it, if it's not a customer trade-in, and then getting it through service and then getting it out into the world. Yuli, do you agree?
I do. And Tully, I'm curious, do you have separate internal departments in each rooftop? I mean, maybe you do it on a case-to-case basis, but do you have dedicated teams to, those trade-ins?
100%. You're spot on this, because if you let your service advisors or your overall technicians work on it, all used cars get pushed off. If you have a dedicated service advisor, we call our internal advisor, that's paid on days in shop, not gross or hours, and he has his dedicated technicians that work for that person, right? That, guess what happens? You're under 2 days. Parts issues, right? Because their focus is on their pay plan, God bless America. Our technicians are paid on hours, God bless America. Guess what happens? Cars get done. If there is a problem with the car, the world should blow up and we need to figure it out. Please, 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 if you look at your store and you have a used car problem, get exactly what you said, a dedicated used car team. You can roll some things off if we buy a bunch of cars or whatever, God bless America, but the focus needs to go to that 1 or 2 or 3 techs based on your volume.
So Tully, Lauren Klein agrees with you. She says fixed ops is the backbone. Sales only sells the first car. So you've got a champion in your corner. She also says, control the controllable. Used cars, fixed, developing your people. I just have an interesting question. A lot of times in some dealerships, there's this tension between fixed ops and sales. And you've been on here and we've joked with Dennis Gingrich. You guys seem to work really well, but you also advocate well for the departments that you work in. So as you started to see this problem with used cars, the time to frontline ready, what did that conversation in your organization look like? Who's saying, hey, we need to speed this up? And how do you avoid responding with, hey, we're busy, we're trying to earn gross here, and used car gross? How do you get to the point where used car gross is as good as customer pay, warranty pay, and everything else, Tully?
Great question. You get your service managers in a room and say, do you want to get paid more for you and your family? The answer is yes. Do you have extra capacity? Yes. You need to dedicate those teams to that. If you want to make more money for you and your family, we need to be in the used car business in the fixed ops department. That includes quality, because we're going to demand quality, right? Yeah. So then our used car managers are like, oh my God, we're getting cars in and out. And our used car managers and our fixed ops departments are working as one. One other thing I've done to help build that great relationship, all my used car managers get paid on recon gross.
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a little incentive to make sure we do the car right, because here's the deal. You know, I only have so much gross in the car. No, you don't. But here's the deal. I'm going to ensure that that gross goes to the bottom line of the store, and I'll pay you on it. Yeah, so the goal is it takes some of that tension away, and that helped us a lot.
Yeah, that's smart. So you said you got together, you realized that things were a little bit challenging, right? And I love how you came to that at some point, I presume in September. Tell us what that conversation looked at the Niello group. You realized you were under pressure on, warranty pay and customer pay and everything else. How did you come to a decision about where your biggest opportunity was and what the problem was, and how did you pivot from a director of fixed ops perspective, Tully?
Great question. So, we have fixed ops team meetings every week with our leaderships, right? And I'm also, I'm on the sales meeting, as Dennis a lot of times will be on the fixed meeting. We want to know everybody understands the business at their store. And I think a lot of times fixed just stays behind their wall, sales stays behind their wall, and they don't know what they need. So what is a problem right now, the fourth quarter? We don't have good inventory, right? Inventory on used and new. A lot of our stores are going to struggle. We don't have great new inventory. So what do we need? We need great used cars. If we explain to our managers in service that we can make more money for you and your family by focusing on used with a dedicated team, don't take away from service, from the warranty and customer pay. But if you focus on what works at your store, how do I get more used cars in the driveway? That in turn does what? It drives repeat and referral business, because that's the business that we're in. We want to sell, yes, I would love to sell our brands. We sell off brands, of course, but our goal is that we want to get those customers in there, because retention is the key. And used cars helps with that tremendously.
So Tully, you mentioned doing it all quality. Yeah. How are you measuring quality in this case?
Oh, great question. Comebacks, zero tolerance for that, right? Two is that we have pictures and video and a digital inspection on every car, as we would a customer's car. So the goal would be is that if there's ever a question when the car comes back, guess what we do? We look at the pictures and video. Did the used car manager say no to that repair? And we ask the questions why. As long as everybody knows what we're doing and make it transparent, things just work. Great relationships between used car managers and internal advisors and fixed ops managers is the key to making great used cars.
All right, so I'm going to challenge you a little bit there. I heard you say you saw customer pay, warranty pay go down, so you have capacity. What does that conversation look like when you're cranking it in service, like in the middle of the summer months or the winter months when it's as busy it can be? You don't have time for used cars. How does used cars get your attention to reduce that time to front line, Tully?
Here, great question. It's all about the hours. It's not about the money. When you look at your hours capacity, where are you? When we are going a mile a minute, we will be at 140 to 150%, which you know what that is? That's 13 and a half hours per tech per day. Yeah. Rich and tired for every technician. So if you focus on your capacity, yes, when things go down, yes, we had 138% last month. Okay, That was we kind of think, oh, something happened. They still made over 12 hours per guy. Remember, 9 hours is the staple, right? So the goal is going to be is that if you think about capacity. So now we slowed down a little bit. Of course, we do marketing like everybody else does, but the goal is going to be is how do we fill it in? Wow, variable has a hole in it. How do we get more great used cars to them? And bam, we got another 200-300 hours per store.
Tully, I'm going to push you though. You're doing the 12 hours. You're overworked in service. Are you going to put used? Are you going to prioritize used, or are you going to put the customer first?
That's the reason why we have used car teams. So we do not do that, because you know what I do? Yeah. I'm gonna plead the fifth here, but here we're gonna go to the customer, and then what happens? The other customer loses. So you need to have those teams.
Then you just got to go hire. You got to hire. You got to build the team. You got to grow the team.
So are you building your team? And that's the key issue into technicians. We don't have a tech shortage at the Niello company because we always have a bench.
I love it. All right. So one metric. You've been on this show many times, and you've touted one metric as the most important metric. It's not absorption. It's not. What's the one metric, and how are you doing on that metric, and what are you doing to drive it today?
Thanks for asking that question. The best metrics that you should be is retention number. When you look at the average dealer, they're under 40 sometimes. 70 has to be the minimum number for you, right? When you talk about retention, well, Tully, there's a lot of, it's hard. I know it's hard. But if we provide great service to customers, great CSI, transparency, honesty, and integrity, and believe that we're in the repeat referral business, retention becomes easier. As we have 4 stores over 70, as a group we're 70. This is what I'm super proud about. And guess what? I like to talk about it a lot.
Yeah. So it's interesting. In the news, we talked about a report, I think it was from J.D. Powers, and it highlights the importance of transparency on the used car trade-in piece. Transparency is easier when we have a relationship. It's not easier when you have a relationship. Transparency is great when we have a great relationship. We have a great relationship when service has a relationship, when they bring their car in, they trade it. Customer satisfaction goes up. So I buy into this. So I got something here for you. Dennis called me up a month ago, and he said, Sam, we sold a car into your territory. I'm like, you did not? From Sacramento? He said, yeah, we did. He said, yeah, we did. I said, how did Tully allow that to happen? Because Tully has total command control. He's like, I vetoed him. Tully, could this possibly be true?
Well, here's the deal. It didn't get vetoed. Is the sales managers are all about today's money, not long-term money. As we are in fixed ops Friday, we're about the long-term dollar. And I think that when you look at 100%, but when you look at your general managers or your dealers at your store, are they truly in to repeat referral business? What they're going to do is don't ship cars out. Because we want to stay them in. What do we want to do? Sell them their car, sell them a great F&I product that drives repeat and referral business. And then when that car comes back in, those things are now going to be covered for the extended warranty. Guess what happens? The customer's happy. They trade the car in, and we got a great trade-in and another customer.
But Tully, what do you say to somebody like who's in the Midwest? They've got EVs. They got to sell those EVs. And they're like, look, we have to ship these EVs to Texas and to California and to the coast. We have to pump out vehicles in order to be successful. What do you say to that sales director or sales manager or general manager that says, I get your retention and I get the importance of the relationship to the customer, but at the end of the day, we got to do inventory management, Tully?
I would say that you're not in the repeat referral business. You're in the business of today, not tomorrow. Long term, that store will fail. And two is that if you're in the Midwest and you bought a bunch of EV cars, you might want to look in the mirror first. Because the issue is that that's not your market.
OEM, manufacturer, they sometimes push it, and that's the reality of a sales manager, Tully. Yeah.
Correct answer. Correct. But the issue is going to be is that do you know your market? If you know your customer, you can drive that repeat referral business.
Yeah. All right, Tully, you've got a ton of experience in doing what you do. You're respected in the fixed ops realm. What's next? So retention is a key indicator for you. Used cars, days to front line. I think you made every used car manager super happy. What's the next thing that keeps you up at night that you're working to solve for at Niello, Tully?
I think the next thing is that how do we make it easier for a customer to do business at a car dealership? I think it's horrible. And we're pretty
Take that
fast.
back.
I'm going to take
that
it back. How long does it take to buy a car? 14 million hours to buy a car? Come on. And how long does it take to go in and sit in a car, drive the car into service drive, wait for a person? I just think that we have to be customer centric on the speed of a transaction, no matter what transaction it is. If it's a parts counter, to a service department, to a car deal, is how do we make customers come into a car dealership and get out?
Well, hold on, because on that vein, if you want to make the experience better, you're opening up the market, right? If we want to only sell into our local area, we're going to have a very small market, but there's going to be customers that want to do business with you if you're that great, and now you're eating into that retention, right?
It is, but I think that we can grow our outside business for fixed, as you're correct, is that now maybe instead of in that focus of maybe that 60 miles, maybe I'll go out 120 because I'll go pick it up and deliver it, or I'll have mobile service. Manufacturers need to help in that survival, which we've struggled with. We do pickup and delivery a lot, local, but the goal is going to be that's the next step. You're spot on. How do we increase our footprint for fixed to drive that repeat and referral business?
So on that vein, Tully, Lauren Klein online says, are you doing mobile service? What do you recommend to dealers wanting to start offering a mobile service today?
I think mobile service is a great idea. My good friend Ed Roberts, as you know, is the king of mobile service. I think it's all about your brand. I'm not sure if a Porsche customer wants us to go to their tile driveway and jack their car up and fix it, but then pickup and delivery works there. I think each brand is more specific on what they want to do for mobile repair. I believe mobile repair will come to some of our luxury brands soon. The manufacturer, as Ford has done an incredible job with, our manufacturers have said, we like it, but we're not going to pay you to do it. I think we all need to be in the same picture for that, because they're also in the repeat and referral business. And I think that, as you said, we need to expand our market. I want to grow my market out 250 miles, not just 50 miles.
So, Tully, you are exposed to a lot of different dealer groups as you travel across the country and you speak and you give advice. Talking about that experience and talking about speed in the dealership, what could variable or sales learn from fixed ops that they don't currently know? Does fixed ops deliver a faster, more efficient process than sales, and what could sales learn?
That's a great question. I think that sales needs to work on loyalty and repeat and referral business side. I think when you do a car deal, they're focused on one thing, is selling that car and try to get as much money they can for that car today. They're not into the long term. When you look at your best salesperson, like we have this guy at Audi that sells 20, 30 cars a month, he is looking at for the long term. He's been with us forever. And his goal is that I'm in the long-term market, not the short-term market. So when you look at variable, think about today, but think about tomorrow and the future, because what are they going to bring you? Their friends and family to buy more cars, which in turn feeds the fixed ops department, which in turn gives them another car sale.
So, Tully, let's drop some knowledge to our audience here. I'm sure everybody already notices this, but we talk variable, which is traditionally sales. We talk fixed, which is service. When I went through NADA Dealer Academy, props to the graduating class I was part of, they taught us, they said fixed is called fix. Why? Because it's very consistent in terms of expense and sales. Variable has these horrendous and incredible peaks and valleys and cycles, weather and supply and all that stuff. Part of what I hear you saying, Tully, is the future of automotive is a more fixed variable department, right? Without some of those peaks and valleys, seeking to earn that business, keep that business, and serve that business long term.
I think you're spot on. So let's think about this. Go back 5-10 years, or probably even less than that. It was parts and service. We haven't said that, have we, lately? It's fixed ops department.
Yeah.
What we need to say, it's not fixed and variable. We need to say it's the dealership. And I think that as great dealerships have great culture, the fixed ops and the variable side have a really, really great relationship. I would say Niello's have one of the best. But that's where it's going to work. If your variable and fixed are fighting each other and want to blame each other for who's going to pay for it, stop, look in the mirror, fix that problem.
Yeah, mic drop on that. Online, Joshua Lehman says long-term sales equals professional sales. So, Tully, thoughts on that as we wrap up
I think it is, because you know what are car salesmen? They're salesmen. What are service advisors? They're salespeople as well, right?
Yeah.
So we have to treat them as that. Sometimes with service advisors, and that could be another session. But service advisors say, when someone says no, I'll see you next time. Right?
Well, Tully Williams, Parts and Service Director at the Niello Group, thanks for being on this Fixed Ops Friday. You owned it. You crushed it. And all in fixed ops, dealership operations, service, parts, whatever you want to call it. You've given us some great things to think about today, Tully. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait for the next time. Take care of yourself.
Be back soon. Oh, he gets me so charged up. It's such a fun conversation always with Tully. And it is an interesting perspective, one that everybody, all of us in sales, the sales side of a dealership would do well to listen to, that retention piece. I love that he always talks about it. All right, Yuli, let's talk CR Stream. Hey, dealers, put the power of multiple auctions in your hand. Use CR Stream to sell vehicles on multiple online auctions fast. You pay only a $150 flat sell fee to the auction. That's it. Register at crstream.com today. You can also click the QR code, or you can go into the show notes at the very bottom if you're listening to the podcast later. And we appreciate CR Stream for sponsoring today's content on this Fixed Ops Friday, including the great perspectives provided us today by Tully Williams. So thanks, CR Stream. Hey, and then Yuli, we gotta just mention the NADA party. Keep the requests coming in. Car Dealership Guys back with our second annual NADA party. It's happening in Las Vegas on Thursday, Friday, February 5th. It's the hottest ticket at NADA 2026. Special guests, automotive personalities. To be considered for a formal invite, hit the link in the show notes. Request to join, fill out the questionnaire. Spots are limited. We can't have everybody, but we want you. So RSVP today, and we hope to see you in Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. But which, by the way, is always my favorite place for NADA. Snow, New Orleans. I love New Orleans. It's always fun, good food, whatever. But Vegas is a great natural spot for that. And I heard a comment online, Mike Vogel, Tully Williams is a great fixed ops advocate for so many things and a wealth of great advice. Agree with that. Lauren Klein, amazing insights, Tully. Thank you. Next up today, Director of Sales at Sonic Tools USA. Welcome to the show, Colin Speer. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. So welcome to Fixed Ops Friday. We appreciate you being here. So you're in the tool business in fixed ops.
Yes.
And I'm fascinated. There's this trend. How did we get to a place where a 20-year-old lube tech in today's world is carrying a $200 a month tool payment? What's the problem with that? And what's the solution to that?
Well, it's a great question, and it's something that we are very keen to try to address. It's interesting. In this country, we have the very unique situation where technicians historically have always provided their own tools when they start a job, which is strange when you think about it, because no other job requires that. If I start working for you, you're probably going to provide me with a desk and a phone and a computer and everything I need in order to do my job. And we're at a crossroads within the industry where I'm sure you've seen some of the different statistics and data that we need many hundreds of thousands of technicians in this industry over the coming years. And there are multiple different roadblocks that are creating this. And one of the key roadblocks is the debt that is required in order for a technician to get started. And so what we often find is a solution and as a bridge to help with that recruitment, but also retention piece, is working hand in hand with the whether it's the fixed ops manager, the service manager, whoever has ownership over those new technicians coming in, is providing them with some kind of entry level starter type set to help them get started so that they're able to be productive and profitable on day one.
So Colin, tell us what that setup looks like. So here at the Ziegler Auto Group, we have a technician academy. We've talked about it a lot, and we formed a partnership with a tool provider, and there's X dollars that candidate can go out and use to purchase. Now, they own those tools as a result of going through the program. So there's still that personal ownership, but it just helps with, to your point, some of that debt. What would you recommend as that starter kit? Do you want the dealership to own it? The individual? How does that look?
So we see it both ways. The most common way is for the dealership to own it. And typically there will be some sort of an agreement or contract signed that I'm going to provide these for you. And you're going to agree to stay here for maybe 12 months, 24 months. And at the end of that period of time, then they become yours. And so there's an incentive to stay. So it ties directly in with that retention component. But yet there's also the ownership. There's a psychological piece that these are mine. I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to make sure that the tools are not only being used, but they're being cared for. And because I want to make sure that I have these at the end of that period of time.
So Colin, do you have any data that shows what retention looks like when you provide a program like that as an entry path for new technicians?
We do, actually. So working directly in that field, what we have seen is anywhere from a 30 to 60% increase of technician retention. And so, as I'm sure you know, across the industry, retention of a technician is, can we just say crisis? It's a red alert crisis.
It's a problem.
There's a revolving door of technicians that have come into the business, and within 2 years, 25% of those technicians have already left. And they haven't just left to another dealership, they've left the industry completely. And one of the key issues is related to this tool debt, but of course it also gets into pay structure of fixed rate versus hourly, and maybe the work environment. I'm sure there's all kinds of factors that go into that. But this is such an easy thing to address. It's a very easy solution that as a new technician, this is what I need in order to do my job.
Colin, you mentioned it started here in the U.S. that way, where technicians bought their own tools, they brought their own tools, and then ultimately they would travel from work to work. Well, what's the start of that? Why did it begin that way? Because I think there is a shift away from that, particularly as OEMs require built-in toolboxes, right? It's not as easy for the technicians to pack their tools out when they leave, if they leave. How did we get here, Colin?
So I've heard a couple of different stories of the once upon a time narrative of how things got started, all the way down to the original technicians weren't automotive technicians. They were just general purpose tradespeople. If you knew how to fix things, turn wrenches and make things work, you would be hired as a technician. And those tradespeople would have come with their own tools. And so it was a very low barrier to entry to say, we need humans in our facility to do this work, and you come in. And it became the norm, and it became the standard that everybody is going to do that. And I think what we have seen within the society is that is very, very difficult. It's not common. The interesting thing, too, is that the automotive sector is really the only sector that this applies to. If we were talking about being a technician in an aviation space or, some other sector, you're not bringing your own tools to the job site, right? So in this regard, the automotive sector is perhaps a little bit behind the times.
So are you seeing more forward-thinking dealers providing tools 100% out the gate, and those built-in boxes required by OEMs are being filled by dealers? And do you... What do programs from tool manufacturers look like where they're helping to kind of support that? This is a shift, right? It's a shift. What does that shift look like?
Yeah, it is a shift. And I think the shift is being driven by probably 2 or 3 different main drivers. One is the manufacturers themselves are beginning to mandate some of this. And so whether you want to or not, you may be forced to do it. The second thing is that it is again, tied into this recruitment and retention piece. It is something that solves a problem that otherwise has not been solvable. And then finally, it's a productivity piece. As everyone is trying to maximize productivity and efficiency of a technician to maximize the profitability of the fixed ops department, having a consistent and uniform solution from bay to bay is essential.
All right. So let's pretend you're talking to a general manager, a dealer, a service director who's considering making that full shift. What are some of the first steps to piloting a program where the dealership would own those tools, provide them to the technicians? And how do you implement that more broadly?
Yeah, the first step, honestly, is to understand specifically what the needs are within that shop. So you have various different skill levels and very different requirements per bay. So not every single technician in the shop is going to get the same sort of set. So there's a little bit of customization and curation to understand what do we need within this facility. Oftentimes there's a decision made to either do things in small stages. We're going to start with one group and over time phase it out across the shop. Or in other cases, usually after a remodel or for a new facility that's opening up, they will go across the board straight from the beginning, just to have a clean slate that everything is done.
So what do you think are the biggest fears or misconceptions that keep dealers from embracing this, from shifting over more wholly to it?
I think honestly, it comes down to just a fear of the unknown. This is something that has not been done before. If these are dealership owned tools, they now become your problem. Historically, they've not been my problem because it's the technician's problem. So if they have the tools, if they lose the tools, if they need to go buy something else, that's not my problem. That's your problem. Well, now it is your problem, right? And so what Sonic does, and companies like ours, is we have a full inventory control process to make for sure that now that these are company-owned tools, you need to make sure that you are inventorying your toolbox. You know what you have, and you're able to keep and maintain traceability on those tools. Historically, that's not been a concern because they're not your tools.
Yeah. So Yoga Cars says, great question. Does taking care of tools have something to do with the tech-owned tools? And probably, right? Tracking them,
yes,
taking care of them. It's interesting. I had an insurance background. I worked for a Swiss-based insurance carrier, and we did property casualty for dealerships. And one of the biggest unknown, most challenging features of dealership insurance was to value technician tools, because it could be anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000. I mean,
that's right.
Some of the boxes are incredibly elaborate, and there are cases where there are dealership fires where the tools could be underinsured because you just don't know what's sitting in the building.
That's right.
That's probably the only item that resides in a building other than maybe consigned vehicles, where you have some liability as a dealer, but you don't totally know what's there. So
that's correct.
Yeah. So
having a standard offering across the shop allows you to have very clear traceability on exactly what you have and what the value of that would be.
Yeah. Well, Colin Speer, Director of Sales at Sonic Tools USA, it's been an absolute pleasure to hear your perspectives on this shift from employee-owned to dealership-owned tools, and really using that as a retention tool to hire, retain, train the best technicians in the industry. Thanks for being on today with us, Colin.
Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. Look forward to it. That's interesting. Have you heard of that shift, Yuli? It's a different shift. It's not something.
Yeah, I was trying to think about my friends coming up. We all took different paths, but I have friends that are ATECs. And there was a time, I think, where it maybe like a barbershop, right? You wanted to buy your scissors so you could make your money. And you would go out and buy your own tools because you were like, oh, now I have this tool so I can do this job or whatever. And things have gotten so specialized now. I guess it makes sense. That barrier of entry that we always talk about in this segment is so high. Maybe it is becoming, prohibitive for people to jump.
Plus, candidly, one of the things that drives me nuts is you see that Snap-on tool at all the dealerships. You see all the technicians empty out the shop to go have the Snap-on conversation. Like, they don't get the group buying power. And this is no shade on Snap-on. Don't call us. It could be anybody, right? There's tool vans that come into groups. Like, those individual technicians race out to buy the tools. That's time away from the cars they're working on. That's a break. Like, I think it makes sense. I would just need to look at a little bit more of the economics to understand it a little bit better. But it has worked incredibly well in our group as we train new and emergent technicians. There's a large dollar amount in partnership with a tool provider. We gift those technicians if they stick around for a while. And I think it's a huge benefit to them. So, all right, next up, let's go to our third final guest today, Frank Knox, Chief Operating Officer at AutoAcquire AI. Frank, welcome to the show.
Frank, afternoon, gentlemen. How are you guys?
Excellent. Before we get into our signature question, how's biz? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. So started back in the automotive industry back in 2003. Started with CarMax, spent about 17 and a half years within that organization. All of my time in the acquisition space. So going out and figuring out ways to acquire inventory was what I did for many, many years with CarMax. So obviously that's a hot button now. I left there and went to Off Lease Only down in South Florida and was the director of purchasing there. So again, large scale acquisitions down there before I ended up and landed, working with Justin Campbell and Unique Auto Sourcing and Sales, which is a wholesale side of what we do. And then obviously AutoAcquire now, which is again, all in the acquisition space, figuring out ways to help dealers go out and acquire inventory. So you put acquisitions and AI in the same sentence and everyone sort of perks up and wants to hear more about what you have to say.
Well, I am perked up because what you're saying is near and dear to my heart. We love used vehicle acquisitions in the car business, obviously. I shouldn't say my heart, our collective car dealer heart.
Yeah.
So how's biz?
Business is good. It's good, but it's challenging, right? Like, when you see what's happening with some of the biggest players and some of the best at acquisitions, it has dealers on edge. Obviously, and they're looking for solutions. And sometimes those solutions are going out to the auction. Sometimes those solutions are rental. Sometimes it's AI. And, I try to fill that void for all dealers by making sure that dealers are comfortable with understanding that they're really, in my opinion, there's no bad channels. There's just bad strategy. And so feel free to go to those places and source inventory, but you better have the right strategy when you're going out and doing that. So it's challenging right now for dealers. It's challenging for the biggest players. And, it has people wondering, like, what is Carvana doing to drive that level of success? And one of the things that CarMax and Carvana have been really good at is acquiring inventory. And I think companies like Carvana, I think they just, ramped up the game by jumping into the franchise world. You join that franchise world and now you have access to closed sales. You have access to being able to go and get off-lease vehicles, and dare I say, give Carvana fixed ops, and all of a sudden the game has changed significantly if they start to scale that model.
So do you think, Frank, that's the big difference between Carvana and CarMax's results over this past quarter? So CarMax losing 50% of its stock price. You heard in the news, new CEO out, Carvana skyrocketing. What's the delta between these two used car powerhouses?
Yeah, I think it has to do, I think acquisitions is a part of it, but I think it has to do a lot with that ability to be somewhat nimble and change. We know where Carvana was, not so long ago when their stock was $6-7 a share. And CarMax was, $150 a share. Now they've reversed. And you just wonder what happened. And I think some of what I see and what I hear from boots on the ground is that, CarMax has been slower to adjust and change, and they're holding on to some inventory, maybe some inventory that they acquired that wasn't quite right, that were, waiting for it to sell through. And, those losses are mounting. And, you look at Carvana, and Carvana has moved the opposite direction with making sure that they're buying the right inventory, but getting that inventory reconditioned and through the shop makes all the difference in the world, and then making sure that you can get out of that inventory quickly.
All right, drop some knowledge on us that will help our dealer clients today. All right, so everybody out there is looking for that perfect used car, and they're trying to figure out, how do I acquire it at the right cost? How do I recon it, get it frontline ready? You heard Tully talk about this. Did you watch our used car roundtable last week where we talked with 4 used car managers about acquisition?
I did.
So in that, we talked about data versus gut, and it came down to gut is super important as we look at the data and we evaluate it. What do you say, Frank, to that used car manager that says, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm going to use my data. I'm going to apply my gut. I don't need AI in used car acquisitions. AI is a buzzword that's not going to help me, Frank.
Yeah. Look, what I would say to that is you couldn't be any more wrong. I believe that if you want to be able to scale acquisitions, either you're going to have to go out and add a lot of headcount to be able to do that, or you're going to have to lean on AI. And when I say lean on AI, you've got to be able to scale offers and cast this really wide net and let things, much like on the customer side, right? Like when we're selling a car, we expect the customer to work its way through that funnel. And then when they get to the bottom of the funnel, now we can really engage.
All right. So tell me
this.
what's the specific task that you want AI to accomplish for my used car manager that's going to help us cast a wider net effectively without ticking off customers and without paying too much for that used car, Frank?
Yeah, I think, one, you have to have the ability to control your offers and use the data to kind of guide you to do that. Once you have control of that offer, I'm using AI to go out and seek to put offers on those cars. And then I'm going to automate that process. I'm going to send as many offers out as I possibly can. And then I'm going to use AI to help me inspect those cars as well. So I need AI to come in, and when a customer gets that offer that they really like, well, I can't afford to send 4 or 5 people out to people's houses and go inspect cars, but I surely can send them a link and have them work their way around the car. And now I can use that. And I can have one person sitting in front of a computer manning 5 different customers at the same time versus 5 people going out to engage with 5 different customers. In my opinion, that's how we start to scale some acquisitions.
So, Frank, do you have some data that shows how casting this wider net and how automating some of these functions and features, sending out offers, pricing those offers in an attempt to bring that customer in? Do you have data that shows the impact of AI in this case in increasing acquisition and CSI profit?
Yeah. So what we've seen is, when you think about and I'll stay in one pocket, I think about like service lane acquisitions, right? Like service lane acquisitions, what we hear is that you typically will convert at about 2 to 3%. Yes. If I want to go out there and appraise 100 cars, I'm going to convert about 2 of those cars. If I do it, 300, the average person can probably do 300 a month, maybe, right? So I'm going to buy 6 cars in that way. Well, what if I were able to send out, for every service drive acquisition, I was able to send out, 1,000 offers on my 1,000 ROs and know that, ultimately when I start seeing these people raise their hand, I'm going to convert at 12%, right? And that's what we see.
But here's what concerns me. You send out 1,000 offers, and this is probably where Carvana and some of them have got it right? Send out 1,000 offers. As a used car manager, I might think, what do I have out there? What's sitting out there that's going to hit me? 1,000 people come running in. It doesn't happen, right? What's the safety valve sending AI out with 1,000 offers to customers in service?
Well, and so that's where we've done the research and have determined it ends up being anywhere from that. Once a customer raises their hand and says, I want to engage with you, right?
Okay.
You're going to see that happen, about 30% of the time, where the customer is going to say, I want to engage with you. And then once they engage with you, now you're talking about buying about 12% of those cars, 12 to 15%. Okay. So, people hear AI and they go, man, I can't afford to buy 1,000 cars. Well, realistically, and everyone can speak to this, the average consumer that comes through your service drive, they're not looking to sell their car that day, right? But what you're creating and what you're generating is this constant funnel of offers that are going out. And that's what it really comes down to. Is that
activity creates that result, and you create the activity. And usually the truth about humans, a human-led process, is as soon as you start to get a bunch of activity, you get so busy, you stop the activity that created that activity, right? But in this world, AI doesn't do that, right?
And that's the key. So you think about when I talk to average used car managers across the country, and this is what we experienced even, on my unique sourcing side of the business, we would experience this all the time last year, where they would ride these peaks and valleys. Frank, send your team out to go buy cars. Nope, don't go buy cars. Go buy cars. And all of a sudden now you're in this situation where you're trying to bulk buy, and now you're wondering why cars are moving from bucket to bucket, and I'm not effectively moving those cars, and I'm not profitable in those cars, right? Because you keep turning this valve on and off when the valve really should stay on. And then at some point, maybe you turn that valve down a bit and it starts to trickle. And so that's the value of controlling your offers, because you may start looking at your offers that are rolling in and you say, you know what, I'm buying too many cars. Well, AutoAcquire allows you to turn that dial down a bit and say, you know what, I'm over inventoried on pickups. Let me turn that dial down some so that I get less pickups coming in. That's the value. And that's exactly what a Carvana and a CarMax does, is they control their own destiny. I remember years ago being at the auction, and if we needed something, you knew it walking into the auction, because our books were going to say, go crazy on this car. I don't care what you pay
Yeah.
for it. Just own it because we need them. And then you would see
Frank-
next week that dial would get turned down and you're like, we're never going to buy any of these things. That's the
Frank,
game, right?
There's a lot of monsters always in the car business. I mean, there's always some tidal wave coming. And right now, you know, we talked about the potential chip shortage. I don't want to jinx anything. Why is now such a pivotal moment for dealers to get serious about acquisition strategy?
Well, you know, I would argue that the time to get serious about acquisition strategy was like 2 years ago. But
Yeah.
for those dealers that are a little bit late to the game, right, now is the time because one, yes, I am looking at that chip shortage and saying, man, if that hits and we have another shortage of cars, I don't know what that's going to do to the used car business. I'm praying toes crossed,
Auction's going to
fingers
get
crossed
tight.
that doesn't happen. If it happens, you have to have a strategy in place. The other thing that I look at is that we're quickly moving through Q4. We need to get to Q1 in a way that we're already have our inventory on our lots and ready for whatever tax season that we might be able to have. And I look at that there's some pent up demand I think we're going to see because of this government shutdown and consumer sentiment is down. They're not out there spending as much. I think that by the time we get to the new year, I think we're going to see a very robust February, March, April, where you're going to wish you had that acquisition strategy in place right now today.
All right. So
For sure.
thinking about sending out the AI to go deliver these offers, Yoga Cars has a great question. Yoga Car says, what's the offer that gets the most responses? High offer and then devalue, or a realistic auction value? What's your strategy?
That's a great question. I mean, you know, when you're sitting at automated offers, you always want to have the ability for that customer to raise their hand. You need to be in the game. And so when you think about, like, I look at those as two different numbers. There's the wholesale value of what that car is worth. And then there's the value that I know that the CarMax, the Carvana, the Echo Parks, the whomever, insert whatever, that they're offering for that car. And I know that if I want to even have a chance at that customer, I got to get them to at least raise their hand and come and engage with me. So I would say, you know, you really want to have that high offer. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily devaluing that car per se, but, you know, when I send out an offer, I'm anticipating that car is perfect. Well,
Yeah,
your
what
car is
could
not
it be
going to
worth?
perfect, right?
So
Like,
do you think the net impact of all these quote unquote high offers is to artificially raise the used car market and prices?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
it's really, I think it's about getting that customer to engage with you, because that customer that's sitting on their couch that has no intent to come in and do business with you, unless they get something that's compelling, that's the only way that they're going to come to your dealership and say, you know what? I did get this offer. I wasn't even in the market. I didn't know my car was worth this much. But now that I have the offer in hand, now I'll talk to you.
Yeah, but so I'm just thinking this through logically, right? So Carvana sends out their automated offer. CarMax sends out theirs. 2 or 3 dealerships send out theirs, and they're all kind of in the highish area. Well, each one you're saying has to go through a process to devalue, but the net impact of those offers as we become more automated in this, I wonder if it is to raise the used car market a little value-wise as people compete. Because let's be honest, the best trade-in, the best used car is that car sitting in the customer lot. It's not that car sitting at auction anywhere. It's not the rental car, right?
Yeah.
I want the car sitting in the grandma's garage because it's been well cared for.
Bingo.
And if she gets 5 values that are high-ish, it's fascinating. It'd be interesting to see if there's some data that supports that or backs that up. I don't know if there is or isn't.
Yeah, you know what I love, and I've talked to Brian Kramer about this many times, that if we all of a sudden create this auction environment with the direct from consumer channel, at what point do some of the bigger players go, you know what, I'd rather go back to the auction because the prices might be in essence a little bit cheaper at the auction.
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting to think about, but if I can go, in the average consumer, we know the average consumer gets what, 4 or 5 offers before they even interact with a dealer, because they can do it within 4 or 5 minutes. I can sit here with, you know, multiple browsers and get offers on my car. So I don't know. I mean, it certainly raises the instant offer marketplace. I don't think it necessarily raises the auction marketplace, because you're always going to have the fleet lease companies and the banks and the repos that are going to keep that true wholesale value intact. But certainly on the instant offer marketplace, I always
Yeah.
see those values significantly higher than sometimes even what you're willing to pay at the auction. And sometimes
Well,
that's okay.
Well, Frank Knox, Chief Operating Officer, AutoAcquire AI. Absolute pleasure having you on the show. Fascinating conversation on all things auto AI and AI acquisition in the used car space. Appreciate you being on today.
Hey, no, I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Guess what almost happened? Somehow my laptop was unplugged. I was getting a 2% warning. Can you imagine if my laptop dies mid-show? That would be a bad deal. I'm just thinking about this logically, and I think Frank's thinking about it right, as is Brian. It'd be interesting to have Brian Kramer back on to talk a little bit about this. But like,
let's call him up.
As all these offers are getting put out into the marketplace, it creates more competition within that private space. And you've got all the different players, Brian Long, all these others that are really aggressively going after them. Ultimately the consumer wins because they get more money. There's more competition.
Well, we all win.
The question becomes, how do we in automotive win as we go through that? So fun show today, Yuli. Let's do it again fun. Monday. Yeah.
Very fun.
All right.
But with a mustache.
Maybe we'll see. Well, yours is coming in there, but hey, to our Daily Deal Alive audience, thank you for watching Daily Deal Alive, where we break down the biggest moves in the car business as they happen. And as we say 3 times a week, don't forget, we're here live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if this is your world, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never, ever, ever miss a beat. And everybody, we'll see you Monday, next episode. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.